DeFi Slate team.
What's up, y'all? Real quick, if you like the DeFi Slate content on Twitter and YouTube and Substack, please give us a like and a subscribe on this video on YouTube. Join our channel, join the community. We'd really appreciate it. We're pumping this stuff out for y'all as much as we can, and we really enjoy the support and the community that we've built. Thank you very much and enjoy. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 41 of the DeFi by Design show. Here today on a beautiful Tuesday after a lot of moving on my end. Moving is an absolute bitch, but here we are talking about DeFi, engaging in crypto. We've had a productive day today and getting after it. We're seeing a bunch of stuff happen in the market, from ETFs to new projects being listed and created. So a lot of FUD going on. A lot of people are focused on price action, but there's still a lot of builders going at it and going hard. And as usual in this DeFi world, it kind of is like the wild, wild west. And catching up with everything is tough, right? But we are here today to spread some awareness about what's going on in the Solana ecosystem, in the decentralized exchange ecosystem, and some interesting stuff to learn about, while you prepare for the rest of the year in DeFi. I'm here today, of course, with co-host Robbie. Robbie, what's going on, my boy?
Doing well. Yeah, it's been a great week. It's been a while since we recorded a podcast, so it's feeling good. Today's June 29th, so to give everyone an idea of where we are, market recovered a bit, so that's cool to see. But like you said, for a while now, we've been on builder mode or survival mode, and just not really keeping too much tabs on the market. Just nice to see that everyone still has some interest. If you're involved in the space, that there's a lot of opportunities out there to get involved. So yeah, you might be able to hear a little rain outside, so it's kind of a cloudy, rainy day in Florida. But other than that, doing great. I will pass it over to Hisham and let him introduce himself and CC.AI.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm Hisham. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cryptocurrencies.ai and short CCAI. At CCAI, we're building a next generation spot and futures exchange, and we've also launched one of the world's fastest decentralized exchanges, built, of course, on the Solana blockchain. Would love to tell you more about our products and kind of what we're doing at the company, but a bit about my background. So I've been a product builder for about 10 years now. I started off my career as a business analyst, and I was fortunate enough to kind of get into software, kind of getting involved in a team that was implementing a large-scale enterprise software project. And that took me for the first time through how products get built at some of the large companies here in the US. And by products, I mean more enterprise-scale products. And from there on, it's just been kind of like that journey and going through multiple cycles of building products at various different Fortune 500 companies, and kind of seeing how things evolve, starting from talking to the stakeholders, then getting the dev team together to sort of like, scope out the product, build it, test it, release it, provide support for it after going live with the product. And I've just been doing that a number of times. And then I landed midway through my career at Bloomberg. And that's where I got introduced to financial technology as a product manager. And, during that time, I was just getting more and more into kind of like emerging technologies. And I would always just read articles about all the cool stuff that was happening, like with machine learning, AI, quantum computing. And every now and then I would see like a article pop up about blockchain. And this was like in 2015, 2016. It wasn't, there wasn't a lot of hype back then, but I kind of started to just read about it a little bit and get an idea conceptually what it was. But it wasn't until 2017 early on when I really decided to kind of go home one day and just really spend a couple of hours researching this blockchain technology and figure out what it really was. And if the way that I understood it in my mind, was it really that? So just to kind of confirm what I had made up and built up in my mind. And it actually turned out once I spent like an hour or two just looking into Bitcoin and just understanding all the kind of moving parts, it made sense right away. So I know for some people, they become skeptical. I was sold immediately. So I was like, all right, this is definitely a game changer. And, I really couldn't sleep that night. So I went out for a walk, was just kind of thinking about all the different industries this could impact, not just finance, but like, given my enterprise background, I also saw use cases in enterprise blockchains and potentially like some form of identity on blockchain, and just all these kind of wild things that were running through my mind. And that made the rest of 2017 really like a memorable year, right? Like I started investing in crypto and started really trying to understand the space and just kind of buying all these different altcoins and trying out all these different products. And while it was exciting, I also realized I was still pretty early. I was one of the early adopters, because just knowing that a regular user would not go through all this kind of user experience of having to kind of learn about wallets and having to transfer crypto from Coinbase to a different exchange, and just going through that UX, I was sure like, all right, we're still super early. And then from there, it just kind of happened that I was just getting more and more involved in the industry and just really seeing like it was like a movement, right? There was just so much energy going into the space, and I just had to be a part of it and get involved. And so in 2018 is when I left Bloomberg and decided to go full time into this industry. It was probably the worst time since the bear market had just gotten started. But that did allow us to kind of look at the ground reality and focus on really building a product and focus on how we can add value to traders instead of just kind of speculating and being too much in the hype bubble. So yeah, I'll just pause there for a moment.
Andy, you're on mute.
Yeah, fair enough. One of the most interesting developments of these protocols that we're seeing created in DeFi right now is kind of the structure in which they're created in comparison to an enterprise software as a service company, right? So you've got the traditional shareholders, which I guess are the governance token holders, right? Then you've got kind of like the corporation and the employees, which is kind of like the team, right? But the key difference that I've noticed in a lot of these is that these software as a service companies are basically for-profit entities that have a bottom line and are aiming to basically create a profitable company in order to have a profitable business. But with these protocols, it's almost like I wouldn't call them nonprofits because they're obviously making money, but it seems like the way in which that they're making money off of their governance tokens and off of the appreciation of such, as well as the inflation schedule, is a bit different than a typical, enterprise company. So I'm kind of curious what you think about the development of protocols as sort of these neutral organizations, like DAOs effectively, that are, they're certainly not nonprofits, but they certainly don't have a bottom line and cash flow in terms of like customer base into a software company that has the expenses, and then you pay out a salary. So I suppose what I'm getting at is I'm curious what you think about the development of protocols as they are now in terms of these decentralized organizations versus kind of how a traditional software protocol or company is built, and any insights that you can provide, based off your experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, this concept of programmable money is just super powerful. And this is something that, had crossed my mind a few years back when I was getting into the space, is we're going to see so many creative kind of ideas come to light. So much development will happen that we can't even contemplate. And even today, I feel like we'll see so much amazing and creative stuff come out of this, like DAOs you mentioned, right? Like, which is like just unknown territory. It's like cutting edge, bleeding edge, going into like this new area and just kind of developing and building something where there is really no good example. And all that is pretty exciting, but kind of looking back and comparing that to an enterprise company. When you think about, how software gets built in an enterprise company, there's typically, a pretty structured approach, right? You have a huge budget, you're either building it in-house or, bringing in an outside third-party company to come and kind of help you execute on the project. There's clear leadership, there's a budget, there are teams around it, and they're pretty sizable teams. Like it's not unheard of to have like a team of like 50 to 100 people working on a project to bring a product to life. So it's a lot of resources go into it in an organized way, and it could still take 2 to 3 years, sometimes even more, to build it, to get adoption and all that kind of stuff. And so that's sort of like what happened in 2017 is we had all these brilliant ideas and possibilities for the blockchain, right? But, given the open source nature, given that there was really no like kind of organized team or budget or anything like that execution, it would take time. It could take a couple of years before you start to see some examples come to life. And then we see that in 2020 when DeFi starts to come to life. a couple of years after the 2017 kind of ICO boom and the idea phase. Like a lot of these things we had kind of heard of, like, oh, we'll have, this decentralized concept, that concept, but it just takes time to build and for that validation to kind of happen. Given where we are today, I mean, I still feel like we're super early, just because we are still trying to figure out what these governance tokens are really going to mean in the future. DAOs are just getting kind of like becoming reality or realistic. And, even we're internally kind of thinking about, what that future could look like. Like, could we get involved? Like, how could we contribute to this? Because that's super interesting. But one thing that we've seen is kind of like, all this global talent that has come together, like everywhere across the world, everybody's kind of contributing to this ecosystem, this space. It's definitely super exciting. So it's an unknown kind of territory. I don't think it's going to reflect exactly how enterprise world works today. We'll definitely see new models. Tokens create another kind of interesting dynamics because you can really get creative with it, right? Like you can create different kind of incentive structures, different kind of distribution structures. And we're seeing that with like just these fair launches, for example, where it just throws the traditional kind of model out the window. And, you don't really see that in the traditional startup space. So I personally feel like there's going to be a lot of new ideas and new kind of projects coming to life. And it could take another 2-3 years. And it's probably even hard to predict right now what they could look like. But at least it's great to see like the fundamental layers are being kind of laid down there, right? Like the foundation is being laid for that. And we've already started to prove out some of these use cases and some of these products with like, tens of billions of dollars now locked in DeFi. It's looking more and more real, and it can't be ignored. Like it's something that will just be inevitable, right? Just like Bitcoin, I'm sure we all believed would be inevitable, even when people were not taking it that seriously. It just had to happen if you knew and understood the technology, and you just kind of knew how efficient it was and the use cases it was solving. So I feel the same way about DeFi right now, but we're still super early.
Right. And one of the things that we hit on a lot on the show is kind of bringing DeFi to the masses as best as possible, right? So we try to make our content as simple as possible. We're trying to make these applications, these exchanges as easy to use, right? There's all these interfaces that we have to use, and I think that's something that is kind of, as you say, in the dark, and we're just kind of going where there's never been anything created. And so I think it's crucial for us to basically make things as simple as possible to be able to bring DeFi, to the masses. Rob, I think you might have something to add on to this, kind of in line with the ethos of what we preach.
Yeah. So absolutely. Removing middlemen, kind of bringing DeFi to the masses in a peer-to-peer way really is what we're building in a decentralized network. All right. So, the way that these, and you compared them to nonprofits because they reflect some of the similar properties to nonprofits, but these DAOs are different way of organizing people and coordinating human capital that is much more efficient. That as we've seen, it can unlock some interesting incentive structures. So it really is innovative in that way, and I think Hisham, like you said, it's almost inevitable. And, as they continue to grow, I think they tap into a market that really has great potential because there isn't as much waste from the system, right? If we're measuring some sort of like economic waste, there is essentially none in a completely decentralized system. But in a centralized system, it starts to have some strain on that community as a whole from that surplus that's created. So, once it all goes back to the community, I think that removes the surplus and ultimately kind of, invigorates people. It brings people back to capturing much more value that's added to the system.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, kind of, Hisham, from your experience and not only going back to 2017, but really founding and starting to build Cryptocurrencies.AI. What have you seen it has worked, and ultimately what drove you to create this company, and kind of where do you see it going in the future?
It reminds me sort of like the way that we're thinking about simplifying DeFi today. I remember we were talking about simplifying crypto-related CeFi in 2017, right? Because even at that time, and that was sort of like my aha moment, is when I started using the exchanges and realized, all right, this is super, not user-friendly. And, in 2017, 18, if you were trading, you couldn't even get your P&L on an exchange. Like you literally had to do like a dump into Excel and like run your own formulas. And there were videos on it and people were like sharing these Excel files with like, here's how you plug in your trades and here's what it's going to tell you. And I feel like the industry since then has kind of come a long way. But that's what motivated me to get into this industry. I knew that, kind of from my background, my strength was understanding how to build a product that is going to be user-friendly, that people would want to use, that's going to add value to them and make things easier for them, as opposed to going and trying to build something that I was obviously not experienced at, like, building like an Ethereum competitor or killer, as we used to call them. So, the same problems that we had 3 years ago, we have today with DeFi. And that was sort of like the principle that we founded our company on, was how we're going to bring a better trading experience. So we started actually to kind of focus on what the current exchanges were doing and what they were offering to traders. So we had like Coinbase, which was like this gateway into crypto, right? So if your friends or family members asked you like, hey, I want to buy some Bitcoin, where would you recommend for me to go? We'd most likely say go to Coinbase, right? That's like a safe option. You probably won't get lost and you'll most likely end up buying some Bitcoin with ease. But anything beyond that, you kind of had to be like a sort of like a trader you kind of graduated from that level, right? Or you had more needs, or you were more looking deeply into the space, into other altcoins, and then you would have to transfer your crypto out to, let's say, Binance or Bitfinex or some of these other exchanges. And that was that. But all these other exchanges were also offering very like comparable type of technology. Like it was similar type of interfaces, similar type of like order types and stuff like that. So we decided and came up with this concept of smart trading, right? And smart trading is really a simple way of saying we offered more advanced tools for traders to have better control over their portfolios, and they can automate things, they can customize with more advanced order types for stop losses, take profits, and all that stuff. And we built in a trading view integration. So there's a bunch of stuff that we decided to build into this smart trading, and how that can kind of benefit the traders who just wanted to get more out of their trading experience. But not only that, even if you weren't looking for advanced order types, we wanted there to be an easy way to kind of manage your portfolio, look at your assets. And I feel like with DeFi, that's exactly what we need right now, is to have these interfaces and have these, projects kind of provide tutorials, tooltips on how people can get onboarded. It feels like an exclusive club almost, especially in 2020. Like, it was just like a small group of people who were getting in and doing all these crazy yield farms, and the rest of the folks were just kind of learning about it either later on or were kind of clueless, right? Like, what is yield farming? What is impermanent loss? I mean, some of the wording and some of the sort of like the concepts which existed even before DeFi were kind of rebranded and made it even more complex. And I don't think that really helped things out in terms of bringing in new people into the ecosystem. So touching a little bit on like what we're doing with DeFi, we decided to get early into the Solana ecosystem and build a decentralized exchange. And the reason we wanted to get into the Solana ecosystem is because of the speed and sort of the low cost. And we had seen the issues that happen with Ethereum every bull run or every time the market gets hot. And so we saw that this had a real chance of kind of competing on some of the products again, with Ethereum. And if this was going to be something that was going to succeed, and by this I mean Solana blockchain and Solana ecosystem, we wanted to be there early. And we felt like it really aligned well with our mindset of user experience. And with that, we decided to build a DEX that's actually more user-friendly. Like, it's better designed, it has better UX. We built in all these kind of like pop-ups and informational messages and things like that, so that when a user comes on, like they find it easier to navigate it. There's no reason for it to be complex. Once we launched the DEX, we realized that the wallet experience on Solana was pretty raw at the time. And since then, a lot of cool projects are actually launching wallets, which is great to see. Our idea was not really to launch a wallet, but we were kind of forced into it because, some of the feedback we were getting was, hey, like we're the Solana wallet is pretty raw and like people can get like lost and lose funds and stuff like that. So we just decided to create our CCAI wallet and make it more user friendly. And, kind of just giving reminders and pop-ups once again, for users to like save their seed phrase and how important it was and those kind of things. And I feel like it's little things like that. You improve a little bit in all this kind of journey of user onboarding. And in the end, overall, they have a better experience and they feel like, they were navigated and they got to the place where they wanted to be, as opposed to just like throwing them at a platform and like, hey, go figure it out, right? Like with like very little information and like you have no idea what you're doing and you have to go and like either research or watch YouTube videos to figure out how to trade or how to buy or how to yield farm. It definitely doesn't make it very accessible to the mass majority.
Right, and that's kind of what we're all about here. Again, is just making it as easy as possible, so this exclusive club becomes, a lot more inclusive for the people who are willing to learn. Right, at some point you still have to be willing to, get your hands dirty and learn. Right, so you can't onboard people for themselves, but yeah, we can make it as easy as possible. And there's definitely ups and downs for both. Exchanges like Coinbase and Binance and decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and SushiSwap and all that good stuff, right? And there's kind of a happy medium, which I like to think that you're kind of going for with CC.AI. So, I'd like to hear more about how you've kind of came to this choice of having this happy medium of using both, the centralized exchanges and the decentralized exchanges, kind of how the liquidity works, and how that helps the end user overall.
Absolutely. So as I was, telling the story of how we got started towards kind of building the centralized exchange part, in 2020, we kind of took a pause on it. We were actually doing a closed beta. We had gotten some really good feedback from the trading community, but with the rise of DeFi, it really got, my co-founder and I excited because we got into this space with the promise for the promise of decentralization, right? So it was naturally something that attracted us to the point where we were like, all right, as a team, we need to rethink what we want to focus on. And so we put a hold on the development for the centralized product, started exploring what we could do in DeFi. And so instead of just kind of like cloning something on Ethereum, and doing something that way, we were like, all right, we need to do something where it's kind of more value add. Hence the jump into the Solana ecosystem in 2020, which was, we got lucky. We kind of learned about it and got into the space early on and started building in that ecosystem. So the idea for us at CCAI is there's no reason we want to kind of separate the two and cause more confusion. So we want to kind of bridge this gap. Eventually, we'll also be launching in the near future our centralized product, which I'll tell you a little about in a bit. But the idea is that, we can have it all in one ecosystem and one platform. If somebody wants to trade, for example, on a centralized exchange, and let's say they want to trade futures and 100x leverage, they should be able to do that. And then if they want to go and buy something that's like a newly listed coin on a DEX, then they can just easily transfer those funds to their wallet within the same exchange or same platform, let's call it, and still be able to participate on the DeFi product suite. So our goal is to kind of bridge this gap, make it as connected as possible, and offer both. And so we started off with our decentralized exchange. We built our decentralized exchange with another project as sort of like our tech stack, which is called Serum. So Serum is this order matching engine that was built on the Solana blockchain. And it's basically a really neat technology that enables the creation of DEXs and other tools on top of it. So we took that, and that also comes with sort of like the liquidity behind it being provided by, I believe it's Jump Trading, and Alameda might also be kind of market making there. So it had some coins already on it. It had some market makers already connected to it. And we thought that it would be better to kind of use that as a building block for our DEX. So we did that on the DEX side. And then since then, that kind of allowed us to focus more on the user experience, the interface, creation of the wallet, the analytics page, and a lot of the other things that we've built since then. And then on the centralized exchange side, we mentioned that we're building sort of like the smart trading and all these advanced order types. We wanted to launch this advanced features at the same time, making them easy, right? So like anybody, a trader of a beginner trader can also go and kind of take advantage of them. And the end goal is to really launch both of these products and have them under the same ecosystem, same brand. So you don't really have to go and trade on many different exchanges. You can stay within one ecosystem, go trade on a centralized exchange, go trade on DeFi side if you want. And I also feel like the biggest users are going to be entering into DeFi from crypto CeFi, right? Like it's crypto folks will probably understand DeFi the quickest and the best, as opposed to somebody that doesn't even understand crypto. And then you start explaining DeFi to them, they completely get lost. Like that's just too much to kind of throw at somebody early on, right? So like the best way for for users to kind of get converted into DeFi is through crypto CeFi. And we feel like we can create a gateway for that, right? So like the centralized exchange can also be like sort of like a gateway into the decentralized exchange. And we get to benefit from both, right? So our business model is such that we get to benefit from fees on both sides. So we don't really have a preference over one or the other. Personally, I have a preference over DeFi, of course, but like realistically, I feel like, you know, centralized finance is still here to stay, and it's not going to be going anywhere or disappearing anytime soon. So this can be sort of like a funnel where users from centralized exchange part can also start trading on the DeFi side, and hopefully we can make that process really easy and smooth for them.
Yeah, I think there is a problem that you guys are solving there that is the fragmented liquidity between CeFi and DeFi. You know, if Serum is able to aggregate all of that liquidity, on the face of it, it sounds like CCAI is kind of like a more advanced Zapper, right? But when you dig into it, Zapper, which, you know, I'm sure you're familiar, is an aggregator for a lot of Ethereum, right? The main chain, side chains, and it's a great tool to manage assets on Ethereum. But you know, it hasn't really crossed the bridge into cross-chain types of aggregations, right? So if your offer there is to be that all-in-one suite, that's not only cross-chain, and I'm not sure if you've, you know, explored any cross-chain functionality, but it seems like the main focus right now is the bridge crossing centralized exchange and decentralized exchange, which again has, you know, fragmented liquidity, and then again fragmented liquidity between chains within DeFi. So an aggregator that can bring all of this together is going to, you know, just is going to continue towards market efficiency, right? And if you can, you know, exploit those market inefficiencies, then ultimately you're led to a successful product. Yeah, so that you know, it is great to see for CCAI in terms of product market fit. I'm interested kind of the AI part. You know, what kind of artificial, we don't, you know, we talk a lot about DeFi and liquidity and interest rates, yield farming and meme coins, but, you know, what has been your experience with artificial intelligence, building a product with it, kind of the different mechanisms that you use, and just, yeah, your kind of overall thoughts on, you know, where it's headed and kind of how we can benefit from it.
Sure. So just to touch on your first point, I personally feel like there will be a time when users will just not know, you know, what chain they're trading on and stuff like that, right? Like there's no need for someone to kind of have to pick one chain over the other or something like that, and have to even like kind of worry about that, because to them it shouldn't matter, right? Like if you want the user to be investing and trading, like they shouldn't have to worry about, is this Solana, is this Ethereum, or anything like that. So I think that's a future that we'll go towards. Although we're focused fully on Solana right now, there's absolutely, like, you know, we're keeping our eyes on everything. Like we're seeing where the industry is evolving and where the growth is going to come from. And then on the second point, it's funny enough, actually, our name, it was really hard for us to pick a name. You know, we spent like 2-3 days as a team. We're literally like, all right, we're going to call it this, that. And we just couldn't come to a specific kind of name on it. And I had bought the Cryptocurrencies.ai domain recently just because I just thought it was like a cool name. I was like, all right, I'm just going to buy this and see what, I may or may not use it, but I'll just buy it. And towards the end, we're like, all right, we can't pick a name. Let's just go with this and see what happens. So the AI initially, you know, was kind of for actionable intelligence. And the reason being, when we were launching the product, it was going to be, the idea was like, we're going to do something like Bloomberg for crypto. So we'll be like a data analytics kind of platform and stuff like that, right? So, and then we just kind of pivoted from there. The market changed in 2018 with the bear market. There was really no longer a need or an interest, let's call it, in all these different altcoins and kind of aggregation and data analytics, because all of the interest went back towards Bitcoin trading, Ethereum trading, and sort of like the main cryptos. So we dropped that and we kind of changed our focus and started focusing more on the trading tools and the exchange idea. But, you know, the AI stands for actionable intelligence. However, we did experiment a bit early on with some sort of like sentiment analysis, sentiment models based on Twitter data. We were doing some sort of portfolio optimization models, but those things were just, I feel like they were just too advanced for their time. in 2017, there was like this excitement in all these coins. But then in 2018 bear market, nobody really was kind of looking for these tools. So they're catching dust. We have some code written, it's just catching dust. I haven't been able to kind of use it or build a product around it, but who knows? Maybe in the future we'll kind of go and revisit all those things and ideas that we had initially.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool name. I mean, it's AI. Anything has been big in crypto. I remember in 2017, all the AI white paper coins just got pumped. It was like, all right, we're gonna combine crypto and AI, and boom, boom, boom. It is funny, man. It was quite the change back then in 2017 to now. It's been good to see the growth, and definitely excited for 3, 4, 5, 8 years down the line. Let alone even longer than that, right? And I think a lot of the same trends that we see in crypto get replicated over a span of the bull market, and then the next bear market, if you will, brings upon a new phase. So kind of early on it was Bitcoin, all Bitcoin. Then we got into the Ethereum and kind of like that. And then it was the ICOs. And then now it's been NFTs and DeFi. And kind of the same things had been replicated over and over again. So what I mean by that is during the ICO craze, we had like 18 different AI projects and 18 different, let's call them, utility and storage tokens, right? And then
Right.
in NFTs, we kind of got the same type of art over and over again, right? And then in DeFi, we kind of got this trend of like decentralized exchanges everywhere. Like everybody's launching a DEX, and so I'm sure next phase will be something where everybody kind of launches and the best stay and the best remain, but it's sort of this pattern of repetition that I've been noticing. And I think right now it's definitely like the decentralized exchange kind of pattern. So what do you think about competition in terms of the decentralized exchange world? And if somebody's listening who wants to start a decentralized exchange, if it would be better to instead of creating their own, contribute to one that's already been created, such as CCAI, in the DAOs of Uniswap or SushiSwap, or if you think creating a DEX is still a better move than kind of contributing to ones that have already been created.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for your audience, if anybody's interested, we're hiring, we're growing our team, get in touch with us. But this is an interesting question. If you had kind of looked at the exchange landscape on the centralized exchange because that's been around for many years now, right? In 2016, and that's something that my co-founder and I usually kind of laugh about. In 2016, he felt like the decentralized exchange industry was like done, like it was over, right? Like you had all these main players who had come in and established themselves, and there was like this. And in 2017, there was like Bittrex, Poloniex, all these kind of existing exchanges, Coinbase, and then we saw Binance come along and just kind of come out of nowhere and just take off, right? Obviously, a lot of it was good timing, but they also had just kind of more robust technology. So when every exchange was stopping or kind of pausing signups because they couldn't handle the load, Binance was able to, and they kind of took off. And since then, we've seen a lot of new kind of centralized exchanges get launched and become really successful. So I feel like in the decentralized exchange space, will probably not be any different. Like there's always room for somebody to come in, be innovative, and just kind of adding value. Especially, I feel like around making it easier, user experience, and these kind of things are super critical and important to go mainstream and to bring more people into the ecosystem. So if somebody wants to build, I would always encourage them to kind of build. And if they feel like they can bring something unique or a game changer into the industry, then they should definitely focus on that. And, at CCAI, that's the reason we got started. There were centralized exchanges. There were even DEXs when we started on the DEX idea. So for us, it's never been about like, okay, are we the first? But it's about, how we can add value to the users and to the traders. And so when we do demos and kind of tutorials or beta testing, for example, on our smart trading, and just getting that feedback from traders who initially were kind of finding it difficult to navigate, and then through iteration, kind of getting it to a state where users were able to use it and just getting great feedback. When traders tell you, hey, like this is exactly what I need, or, oh man, like this solves so-and-so problem for me, or like, I don't have to use multiple products anymore. It's all doing it for me. That kind of feedback is great. And I feel like, that's the stuff, those are the kind of products that we personally ourselves want to build. But if other people want to come into the space, there's definitely room for growth, right? The whole industry itself is going to grow in the next 5-10 years. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we're like a 10 plus $1 trillion industry, and some of these main, besides even Bitcoin and Ethereum, and some of even like these application kind of products are going to be potentially at hundreds of billions, or maybe even $1 trillion market cap. That is totally in the realm of possibility in the next 10 years, if we're going to have that type of a long-term kind of view on where this industry is growing. once you look at it in that kind of frame, where it could be, a multi-trillion-dollar industry, then there's definitely room for a lot of players to come in and maybe even localize, right? Like we see a lot of centralized exchanges that are pretty local in different regions, because they either focus on kind of their marketing. They understand their local communities better, so they're able to market it better, right? It doesn't even necessarily have to be a technological advancement. It could just be that you understand a specific kind of mindset of a community, and you're able to kind of bring them on board to use your product. So there's definitely room for many different exchanges to come in. Uniswap will probably continue to kind of grow, but then we're also expecting this exchange that we've launched, the CCAI DEX, to be the one that can bring on millions and millions of traders, right? And kind of get the same experience that they get with orderbook trading on the centralized exchanges. So yeah, I feel like there's definitely room for growth here for everyone.
We've asked this question to some founders and on some podcasts in the past. What is the one thing you think is most necessary for the DeFi ecosystem that's still missing, that CC.AI is not working on?
Man, I feel like there's always, and it's a tough problem, right? With all these like, should I call it exploits? I mean, they're not really hacks, but like with all this stuff that's happening with flash loans and just people kind of losing money, because it's very, cutting edge, innovative, a lot of stuff being built. That's the first thing that comes to mind is like, anytime people lose money in something, obviously that's not good. It hurts the space. It kind of, makes people more afraid of getting in and kind of using products and getting involved. So, I don't think we're doing anything like special or extra for this, but yeah, there's been a lot of news lately about, just kind of compromises and rug pulls and all this stuff. The less of this stuff we can have in this industry, I think the better it is. We were experiencing this with centralized exchanges for sure. And now with this kind of stuff happening in DeFi, I think also it kind of could scare people off a little bit. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind.
I see that as an incentive problem, where these bad actors have more of an incentive to go after these rug pulls and malicious attacks rather than contribute to the project themselves. So my understanding is it's a pretty small, or relatively small number of individuals that have the specialized skill to make these attacks. But even if we can kind of weed out those few bad actors, it still seems like an inefficiency in the incentive model. I'm not sure where, but hopefully it gets sorted out and those bad actors get removed.
Yeah, hopefully. I feel like when everything matures, there's going to be it's going to get harder and harder. I do feel like insurance is definitely an exciting area. Yeah, insurance definitely sounds pretty exciting. Like the decentralized insurance model, it's something that was missing in the space, and we're starting to see projects that are offering those solutions, and it's pretty cool.
Have you ever used an insurance protocol to insure any of your funds in a smart contract?
I have not, but
this is the thing. It's exciting, and that's why I asked, because I knew it was going to be no one uses it. That's the problem. It's like it's used, right? Obviously, people use it, but nobody uses the insurance.
Maybe because we just have not done something where there's a lot on the line, and
yeah,
if there was, we would use it, right? So I'm sure there are users and traders or some kind of use case for it when there's real stuff on the line, and not just a couple of thousand or something like that. So I'm sure there's a huge use case for it. We just haven't seen it kind of come to.
I think it's got to be like with the institutional capital, the people that are managing money for others. Less so what you're managing for yourself, but like if you have clients that need to have, and traditionally they're used to having their money insured by the FDIC and such, right? But now if you can show proof of insurance through DeFi, I think that's going to be a big use case.
Yeah, I definitely think especially coming to if we see regulation, that is actually friendly to crypto and works with it in a way that kind of promotes the inner workings of crypto, right? Rather than putting maybe traditional insurance metrics on something like a DeFi protocol, if they work with these insurance protocols, it promotes the ecosystem, and it grows as a whole. So
Yeah,
regulation can be friendly or unfriendly. It's just interesting how it'll play out.
for sure, sure.
Hisham, what is your suggested kind of well, I guess like more of your mental model and framework for new investors and participants in the market of DeFi? There's all these things going on. There's a lot of yield farming opportunities. There's a lot of places to get in and buy and sell and do this and that. So I guess what I'm asking is, what's your mental model for kind of staying sane as an investor in such a new technology in the wild west, and how do you stay safe but still position yourself for that asymmetric upside?
Yeah, I would just recommend, first of all, to start focusing on the bigger projects, right? Like if you're just getting in, just like when somebody asks me like, hey, what crypto should I buy? I'm usually telling them, just buy some Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin for sure, but like buy some Ethereum and just kind of start with the safer options. I would probably say the same thing to anybody getting into DeFi is, first of all, try to use the products. It's pretty interesting. Like once you start to use them, it starts to make more sense. And you can kind of navigate your space and you can understand what's happening a lot better once you use it. And I mean, anything that's just kind of, I would say just due diligence, like, look at teams, look at what they're building, look at, if something's offering crazy yield, like it's definitely not sustainable. So, don't throw like all your money into it and stuff like that. Just be careful. And in trading, just like, we tell everybody, like, use stop losses, use proper risk management. It's the same thing with DeFi. Like, if you're getting in and kind of trying to do yield farming and trying to look for really crazy upside, just know that it comes with really high risk. And that's why there's such a huge upside potential there, right? So I think a lot of this stuff is pretty common sense, as long as people just kind of take more of a cautionary approach, take it step by step, learn what they're getting into, read about it, understand it more. The one thing that I really enjoyed is like there's so much great content out there on YouTube. Like some of these content creators have done an amazing job really explaining things, using all these products and kind of even when the products themselves didn't really have a great onboarding, you could totally find somebody somewhere kind of explaining it with a tutorial, especially the big ones, right? And you can kind of use that as a way of learning, since there is such great content out there. So it's better to learn and understand the space before you just throw all your money at it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things about DeFi that was awesome to see, was being able to use the products and then see which ones you want to invest in based off the ones that you use. I mean, a pretty good framework is if you use it on the daily or on the weekly, if it has some funds in it, it's something that you have conviction in to invest in. And I think kind of on the upside conversation, I think the Solana ecosystem is really blossoming right now. I think the wallet issue is something that, as you're saying, is definitely needs to be hit on. The wallet and the bridges. I think Ren Bridge just came out with a bridge to Solana, which is definitely big for a lot of Ethereum users. A lot of Ethereum users are definitely early Ren OGs, kind of in the dark node and hiding your Bitcoin kind of concept. So I think that's going to be big for Solana. So as far as the wallet goes, y'all's wallet is basically what to be one of the easiest to use and most convenient wallets for Solana. So if I want to try it, I just head over to Cryptocurrencies.ai and I'm able to use the wallet. Now, is it a web wallet? Is it a downloadable wallet? Kind of what's the rundown there?
Yeah, it's a web wallet, and we also have an extension now, and there are a couple of other wallets that are now starting to launch and provide services in the Solana ecosystem. So I think it'll get better and easier with other wallets coming out. We launched ours because we felt like there was like an immediate need to get the traders something that they could kind of use, because you can have an amazing DEX, but if the first interaction or touch point is going to be a wallet, and that experience sucks, then it kind of makes it hard for people. It's possible they'll just drop off and never kind of go through the whole kind of life cycle of onboarding. So Solana ecosystem has just been exploding. It's been fascinating to see. I think that's what happens when you have like a great team building a great technology, and then again you tie that with like good marketing and kind of branding, and that's what we're seeing. It's just like all these things are coming together and creating the perfect storm. For Solana, I think
it reminds me of like of DeFi and Ethereum in like May of last year or so. just kind of
Exactly.
just blossoming with a bunch of new products. And I mean, there's, you've got like the compounds and the Aves and the options trading and a bit of leverage trading, and you got a bit of yield farming opportunities. But yeah, it's so nascent, so it certainly can provide an opportunity. But I think like the big thing is getting people over there, and getting people on, onto the Solana blockchain, and getting people to be able to actually use it, as easily as possible. And then I think once they see the experience using your platform, it's going to be like, why would I trade elsewhere?
Exactly, and that's been our goal since last year, is to kind of be that go-to exchange on Solana. Like, really just kind of capture that market, and provide all the tools and services that a trader would expect. With great onboarding, great design, user experience, and just kind of bringing their trading to the next level. And there's a lot of exciting stuff that we're actually building. Can't speak too much about. It hasn't been announced or launched yet. So there's more to come. We're definitely kind of continue doubling down on Solana and launching new products and making trading, basically enhancing the trading experience, like bringing some of the smart trading functionality to our decentralized exchange as well.
Yeah, and bringing some of the liquidity from Ethereum, I think is going to be an important part of that. Its main competitive, Solana's main competitive advantage over Ethereum is its faster trading. Do you see that, as Ethereum scales, Solana's impact is going to, be kind of cut into? Or do you think Solana really has the potential to, expand on top of Ethereum and build a substantial value add to the ecosystem overall?
I think Solana is definitely going to have its own ecosystem and be a really strong competitor to Ethereum. And we're seeing already like the future is not going to be all on one chain, right? Like some chains are going to have one advantage over the other. So Solana is cheap, it's fast, and we're expecting it to get even faster over time. So I feel like, right now is what matters. Solana is here, it's available today. Products are being built, or DEX is available. You can go trade on it. It's super cheap. It's really fast. It's really like that experience is really powerful. So I would encourage your audience, obviously to promote our brand, but not even only that, like just for themselves to go and experience, what Solana kind of brings and what CCAI brings on top of Solana. I really encourage everyone to just go create a wallet, try it out, just take it for a test drive, and you'll see the difference immediately. And that's what happened with me, right? Like, so when we were building the first kind of beta, or you can call the alpha version of our DEX, and my team was like, hey, it's ready. You can make a trade now. That first trade, that experience was just kind of awesome, right? Like just seeing how fast it was, how cheap it was. I knew that it would be a game changer. And I think that's why, so many people are getting into the ecosystem, and, kind of we've continued to build on it, and we'll do so in the future. Is just what it offers, and it offers it today, right? Like it's not some promise of the future or anything like that. And we'll see where the industry grows, but Solana definitely has been, I feel like, purpose built for trading and trading kind of products. So we'll see a lot of cool things. And there's a lot of products that are trying to like build options and all these, kind of advanced products on Solana. And I think the ecosystem will definitely continue to grow. It has some of like the top investors in the industry that are backing it, investing in it. Some of the best minds in the industry are building on it. So I'm super bullish. I think we'll see a great future.
Yeah, Rob's in Ethereum maxi, so he's getting his panties wet right now.
No, they move at an incredible pace. Solana
sure they do, dude.
No, and I think as Ethereum takes more of a store of value narrative, they're slowing down the pace. So it's interesting to see, like, if Ethereum just stays conservative, and Solana takes its place as kind of a front runner of like an internet of blockchains, or if Ethereum, takes the kick in the ass and picks up the pace. So, time will tell.
I see Ethereum
personally, I'm like a fan of like all these different blockchains, right? They all add value. Even if let's say one of them were to become obsolete or get left behind, no worries. Like it helped the space move forward eventually. And I think it's all about the space in this industry. Like it's, as long as we're all moving forward, that's really what matters.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with regards to specific change, kind of viewing it as like Ethereum as like the mainland, and Solana as like the second mainland currently. And I think that's powerful because I think it helps both. Like the competition, like the word competitor is great, but it's almost like it's like a co-op. If we can get a bunch of transactions on Solana, that's awesome, because that means that Ethereum gets cleared up a bit, and we can have only I think large players go to Ethereum for the main chain for the security, right? Stuff like this. So yeah, I mean, it's super bullish on Solana, on Ethereum, and on CCAI. Hisham, thank you so much for coming on. My boy, it was an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we will definitely stay in touch and keep getting after it. Closing thoughts are check out Cryptocurrencies.ai, guys. I know I will, and I'm going to get a Solana wallet and running. And Robbie, we probably got some video demos coming up as well. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it was great being here. Thank you for having me.
Sir.